In ancient China, a young empress was sipping tea in her garden when a cocoon fell from a mulberry tree into her cup. As she tried to fish it out, a delicate thread began to unravel. Little did she know this encounter would lead to the discovery of one of the world's most luxurious materials, silk. And today, we'll show you how the silkworm is being used to make one of the most well-known materials in the world. A brief overview. Silk production, known as sericulture, is an ancient practice that originated in China over 5,000 years ago. At the heart of this process is the Bombyx mori, or domestic silkworm, which feeds exclusively on mulberry leaves. These silkworms aren't actually worms, but caterpillars of the silk moth. The journey from silkworm to finished silk product is complex and labor-intensive. It begins with the cultivation of silkworms and ends with the creation of luxurious fabrics and other goods. This process has been refined over millennia, resulting in a material prized for its strength, luster, and versatility. Life on the silkworm farm. So what goes on at a silkworm farm? Well, it all kicks off with some tiny eggs. A female moth can lay up to 400 eggs at a time. These eggs are carefully looked after until they hatch into teeny tiny larvae, each about the size of an ant. Once they hatch, these little guys enter an eating frenzy. They're kept in boxes and fed a steady diet of chopped mulberry leaves. Over about 6 weeks, they'll molt 4 times and grow to around 3 inches long. And during this time, they'll eat about 50,000 times their initial body weight in leaves. After their 6-week buffet, the silkworms are ready for their big performance, spinning their cocoons. They attach themselves to a fixed spot, typically a frame in a rearing house, and begin to secrete a fluid called fibrin. This fluid hardens in the air to form a continuous filament, usually between 1,000 to 3,000 feet long. And no, it's not the fluid you're thinking of. Each silkworm will rotate its body up to 300,000 times over 3 to 8 days as it builds its cocoon. Did you know that it requires around 2,500 silkworms to produce a single pound of silk? Now, you might think raising silkworms sounds pretty straightforward, but it's not all smooth sailing. Disease is a big worry for silk farmers. Depending on where you are in the world, diseases can wipe out anywhere from 10% to 47% of silkworms. The most common diseases are flashery, grassery, muscardine, and pebrine. There are also some pesky pests to deal with. Oozy flies, for instance, lay their eggs on silkworms, and their larvae end up eating the silkworm from the inside out. And then there are dermestid beetles that like to munch on the cocoons. It's a tough world out there for a silkworm. The big business of silk. But let's talk numbers because the silk business is booming. In 2022, the global silkworm cocoon market was worth a whopping $15.6 billion. And it's not slowing down. Experts reckon it'll grow by about 7.3% each year until 2030. China is the big player here, producing about 80% of the world's silk. India comes in second with about 18%, and the rest is split between countries like Uzbekistan and a few others. The Asia-Pacific region is where it's all happening, and they're expected to see the biggest growth in the coming years. From worm to wardrobe, how silk is made. But how do we even go from caterpillar to silky smooth fabric? It's quite a process, so let's break it down. First, we've got sericulture. That's the fancy term for raising silkworms and letting them form their cocoons. Next comes harvesting. The cocoons are collected about a week after the silkworms start spinning. Now here's where it gets a bit grim. The cocoons are heated up to kill the pupae inside. I know it sounds harsh, but it's to stop the moth from breaking out and damaging the silk thread. Then we've got reeling. The cocoons are dunked in hot water to soften them up, and then the silk is carefully unwound. After that, it's time for throwing. No, we're not tossing the silk around. This is when multiple strands are twisted together to make stronger yarn. Next up is degumming. The silk is boiled in soapy water to get rid of the sticky stuff holding the fibers together. Then we've got dyeing and finishing, where the silk gets its color and any special treatments. Finally, the silk is woven or knitted into fabric. Throughout all of this, quality control is super important. Only the best cocoons make the cut for the finest silk. Some clever scientists are coming up with ways to make silk without silkworms at all. They're using bioengineering to create silk proteins that can be spun into fibers. Others are genetically modifying silkworms to produce stronger silk by incorporating spider silk genes. It's like something out of a science fiction movie. These innovations could lead to new types of silk with enhanced properties, potentially expanding the material's applications in various industries. What can we make with silk? So what can we do with all this silk? Well, the possibilities are endless. Of course, there's clothing. Silk is perfect for fancy dresses, suits, lingerie, and more. It's soft, breathable, and has a natural shine that just screams luxury. Different weaves of silk, such as satin, charmeuse, chiffon, and crepe, offer various textures and finishes for different clothing styles. Then we've got accessories like ties, scarves, and handbags. Silk takes dye really well, so you can get some amazing colors and patterns. In the home, silk is used for things like curtains, bedding, and fancy throw pillows. Sleeping on silk sheets? Now that's living the high life. Silk bedding is famous for its softness and temperature-regulating properties. But it's not all about looking good. Silk is also used in some pretty surprising places. It's used for surgical sutures because it's strong and the body doesn't reject it. It's even been used in parachutes and bicycle tires. And scientists are now looking at using silk in medicine. They're exploring ways to use it for things like artificial skin and new ways to deliver drugs in the body. And the presence of dipeptides and tripeptides in silk proteins makes them ideal for use in various cosmetic products, as they can easily penetrate the skin. The money side of silk. But let's talk cash. The global trade in silk products is worth billions of dollars annually. High-end fashion houses pay premium prices for the finest silk fabrics, while more affordable silk blend products are for mass-market consumers. The silk industry is a big deal, especially in Asia. In China, millions of people work in the silk industry, from farmers growing mulberry trees to skilled artisans weaving intricate designs. High-end fashion houses pay top dollar for the best silk, while more affordable silk blend products are available for the rest of us mere mortals. The industry is also trying to keep up with changing tastes. More people are asking for eco-friendly products, so some producers are looking at organic farming and ways to use less water and fewer chemicals. There's even a market for something called peace silk or ahimsa silk. The rise of veganism and concerns about animal welfare have created this niche market. This is where they let the moth come out of the cocoon before harvesting the silk. It's more expensive and the silk fibers are shorter, but some people prefer it because they think it's more ethical. Challenges and what's next for silk. Now, it's not all going smooth for the silk industry. Making silk takes a lot of time and work, which is why it can be pretty pricey compared to man-made fabrics. Some people also worry about how the silkworms are treated. There are environmental concerns too. While silk is natural, making it requires a lot of water and often involves chemicals. Some producers are trying to find more sustainable ways of doing things. Looking ahead, those sci-fi sounding innovations could really shake things up. Imagine silk that's even stronger, or silk made without silkworms at all. The demand for silk is still going strong, especially in growing markets like China and India. As more people have money to spend on luxury goods, the silk industry could see even more growth. But they'll need to balance this growth with sustainability and changing consumer preferences. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, but that's business. So whether it's being worn on the catwalk, decorating a home, or even being used in cutting-edge medical treatments, silk continues to be a wonder material. As technology advances and consumer demands evolve, who knows what the future holds for this ancient craft? One thing's for sure, the story of silk is far from over. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the intricate processes behind everyday items, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. What surprised you most about silk production? Was it the number of silkworms needed to make a pound of silk or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll catch you next time.